Today on Locked On Rockies, we continue to hear about plans for the Colorado Rockies from Paul DePodesta and a big question from Purple Row. How do you create a winning identity?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 13th day of November in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And today on the show, we're going to continue discussing quotes and things we're hearing about the direction of the Colorado Rockies from Paul DePodesta. And we'll get a little bit of your comments and stuff. Apologies for the audio issues yesterday. I hope that today's episode goes well. Stuff that I was looking at looked fine, but one of my cords was a little bent. So did a little rewiring, did a little reorganizing. Hopefully everything is smooth sailing today, but thank you to those pointing out that there were some audio issues there yesterday, and we'll try to straighten them out. Sometimes only so much I can do. But anyway, before we dive into all the fun today, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So I want to talk about a couple of things here. There was a piece in Purple Row that I thought was interesting from our guy Skylar Timmons over there for the Wednesday Rock Pile on Purple Row. And we got some updates from the Denver Post on what the Rockies might be doing when it comes to building up that pitching staff. But I want to start with the question to you before we dive into everything. When you think of the word identity, when you think of that, is that an important thing for when you consider your sports team? Obviously, identity has a lot of things that can that outside and personal identity and all that stuff. But I'm talking about sports teams. Do you care, like, when teams have like the certain identities, you know, the Heat culture, for example, if you're a basketball fan, or the Patriots way, as they used to say there in New England when they were going on their on their run, you know, there's been times that we've seen that identity kind of is like a big part of what teams are, and they specifically look and operate in certain ways. And the Rockies have never really had that. They've had glimpses of it. They've had moments of it, but they've never really been able to put something together. And I think that is a symbol of the disorganization. I don't think the Rockies, when without the, and I guess it's weird to just say identity or culture. And of course, you can do the simple cliche thing of winning culture. It's all about winning culture. Now, there is a culture that it takes to win. There is steps that it takes to win. There is an expectation from the top down of what an organization is like when they are doing a lot of winning, and what the expectations of the players and everybody in that organization are. But just because if a team doesn't have an identity, does that sink them immediately? Did the Dodgers have an identity outside of the high payroll, the names, the flash? Is that enough of the, you know, when we're thinking about in the terms of sports teams, is that enough to qualify as an identity? I'd say the Blue Jays, the identity is we're an offensive focused team. Our identity is we hit the ball hard, we take good at bats, and we make it very difficult for any pitcher to walk in there. I think that's part of what, you know, that could be crafted as the identity. You know, you can look at the Mariners. You know, our identity is pitching. That's where it is, and even and pitching and home runs. That's what we do, but. Is that truly an identity when that's just kind of like your strengths or just what you were good at that season? For example, if the Mariners don't hit as many home runs, aren't as a reliant on hitting home runs to score runs next year, did their identity change? That's more just the roster and the people on it. I think identity has a lot more to do with the people running the ship. the behind the scenes, the philosophies, the approach. And the Rockies tried to craft the identities themselves and tried to put themselves in situations or tried to create identities or create a standard in Colorado. And it hasn't always worked. And here's something from a little bit from Skylar Timmons here about this as he in his piece highlighting the fact that he's growing a little bit of cautious optimism through some of these interviews. And again, it's the first week of interviews. It's the first week of action. We're kind of getting the, hey, this is the time where, you can just say, even if you just say or hint at somewhat of a right thing or something, doing something a little bit differently or something like that, we can feel good and excited about it. But I think that that Skylar brings up some good points here, because here's where I want to dive into from this piece. Ultimately, the Rockies' overall culture has been one of failure. It's been one about misguided loyalty, complacency, and outright stubbornness to veer off a course that was doomed to fall off a cliff. Whatever culture the Rockies thought they had clearly didn't foster a winning environment. So that's what DePodesta has to figure out for the team. If the end game is to be a winning team, then what is he going to do in order to reach that goal? If the desire is to be a model organization that other teams turn to as an example to follow, what does that look like? DePodesta mentioned his desire to get the perspectives of all the people who currently work with the organization. He was excited to get the thoughts, experiences, and ideas that staff who have been with the organization for a long time and get to the root of what has and hasn't worked for the team. A collaborative effort is something that is felt missing from the franchise. I shared this with them. I don't have all the answers to the secret to our success moving forward, DePodesta said to Rockies reporters on Monday. We talked about this quote yesterday. But I'm pretty confident that with all the people on that call, there are some great ideas, a lot of experiences, and a lot of great observations that I want to tap into. Ultimately, I want to create a shared vision for your organization and an identity for what we want our team to look like, both in terms of pitchers and in terms of hitters. But I'm not going to walk into a room and say, I got it, here it is. This is just kind of bringing back and highlighting the importance of, what we were talking about yesterday. There are people that have the value as critical and as of the Rockies front office as I have been. There are good people in that org. There are people that know. There are people that are familiar with the Rockies. There are people that have seen the data, seen the players, understand the environment, know a lot about Rockies baseball. And I think for him to come in there and keep that open mind of let me not come in here, because we were talking about too, coming in here and just wrecking everything, right? Tearing it all down, tear it down to the studs, rebuild it all. And that's a lot. That's very intimidating, and that can and that could be a lot of change to ask for in a short amount of time, as much as change needed to happen. So being able to come in with the approach here of saying, I'm going to bring the people in, I'm going to talk to the people I want to learn, I want to take in, I think that is going to help with this transition, and it is going to help put him in to be able to make the right decisions for what he needs to handle right now. He's got to lean on some of these people for making the decisions about the contracts. He's got to lean on some of these folks here for the input and the insight into, hey, give me a little bit of tell me about these young arms and who. Maybe the numbers weren't ugly, but show me a good stretch of theirs that we can maybe build off of and go from there. And let's just and just start working. I think this whole idea of collaboration, if he comes in, if DePodesta comes in and is willing to show the open mind, willing to embrace the staff that's still there, the longtime Rockies people that are still in the building, even with all the other change that we've seen there. Then on the flip side, Dick Monfort needs to collaborate with him and needs to approve, work with, and I guess enable, I think is maybe the right word there. But they need to be able to work together in the sense of Dick Monfort can't come in and shut down the ideas that DePodesta has. And DePodesta, is going to probably have to work around the stubbornness and the hesitations of Dick Monfort. But they're going to have to, if in order for this to be successful, it's going to take some give from ownership. Dick Monfort is going to have to do things that he might not be comfortable with, might not be all that confident with, in order to start creating a winning identity. What they've been doing, what they've thought they were doing, their approaches, their philosophies, everything that they thought they were doing right. And maybe it's not everything, as I was just talking about, listening to the people that have been in the building. The results have not been great for what you've been trying to do and what you thought you embraced as your identity. So through this new hire, you need to be able to give a little bit. And maybe as we've seen, we know that Dick Monfort's still involved. It's going to take compromise from his side, just like it's probably going to take compromise from DePodesta's side, because you're not going to probably be able to do everything. They have to work together to build this thing into something special. It does take these guys working together to form that identity. And because just if DePodesta comes up with ideas, he has to be able to follow through and pursue those ideas in order to help the Rockies and to create a winning culture, or just a better culture, so to speak. And I guess and culture, identity, however you want to look at it, I think that it goes that high up. It's not just locker room. It's not just manager. It's about the people who are putting the personalities and the players and the pieces together. They are very important in their role, because they need to make sure that they are maximizing and finding out the things, making sure that this group can work and be successful together. And the Rockies haven't always been able to do that. I mean, when they've had the fun and exciting teams, they have created identities of good offenses, comeback kids, good enough starting pitching. But I don't necessarily know if that's like identity. I don't know if that's really what we're looking for when we say that word. And I want to dive into one more thing here that I think was an interesting point here, and highlight the importance that the process, the approach, the philosophy, it needs to be a unified one. And as this article points out, that hasn't been always been the case for the Rockies. Let's talk about that next, coming up. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel is your spot for the NBA and the NBA action, because the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on all the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push or you have someone fun like Nikola Jokic on your team. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. Yes, $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com. Place that first $5 bet, and when it wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets for new customers. That's at FanDuel.com. Sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked On Rockies here, back with you on this Thursday edition of Locked On Rockies. Shout outs to all of you for being our everydayers and for making us your first listen of the day and for helping us become the number one sports podcast network. Yes, Locked On, the number one sports podcast network. And it's thanks to folks like you who are tuned in, locked in to Locked On Rockies, because you say it's the off season. I can't get enough Rockies talk. I want to hang out and chat. That's what we do. Frank says, good luck. Signed, a Cleveland Browns fan. Randy says, I will try to be positive, but it's tough with this team's track record. Paul DePodesta, let's see. I think it's Paul DePodesta. Sixth, the minor league system is something he was reminded of is a bit bothersome, but great now that you are reminded. I am looking forward to your approach. For Rocks fans, remember, DePodesta is not only an analytics person, he is a development guy. Note of difference. East Coast supposedly includes Cleveland. Just wasn't statistically what will happen, but for players who match the analytical philosophy of the team. Can he make a difference? Answer. Is he confident enough to go against the Monfort's business model? When Walker said baseball department, he revealed what we all guessed. It is not the reason to come to Coors, but it is a way to draw people just to spend money on a questionable team. It's not a hub, but just a spoke. Randy's always got the big ideas there. Jim says 6 or 7 other Colorado Rockies having batting stats like Goodman would be a game changer. Absolutely. I mean, you would love to have people, you'd love to have 6 or 7 silver slugger quality bats in the lineup. Luis says, bro, love you, but your mic is worse than the Rockies playoff chances. And let's see. Game Sports says, Browns fans here. This man was the worst thing to happen to my team. And after 9 long years, I just want to thank you for the Rockies for taking this trash off our hands. Good luck going anywhere. It's just, I mean, unfortunately with this, that is an interesting wrinkle. The reaction of Browns fans and the difference between what what teams, the Diamondbacks or the Blue Jays and the Royals and Astros, they're saying, oh, if we lose this guy, we're in trouble. Hasn't been the case. But again, even with all the criticism, even with all the hesitation, and I'm going to remain critical, like, hey, I hope it gets better. I hope that this improves. I hope that this is a fresh opportunity. I hope the Rockies benefit from them bringing this guy in that can look at the numbers in a different way and look at the team in a different way. It was an outside the organization hire, despite the connection with Dan O'Dowd like that I like to point out. So I'm trying to keep some optimism, but the Browns fans still checking into the pod. It's still reminded, and nothing against them for coming and saying that. That's just kind of a red flag in my mind. I want to go back to this piece from Purple Row here for our to finish out the second segment here before we dive into some of this talk of trades through for the Rockies here from the Denver Post. This is identity and culture is key for Paul DePodesta and the Rockies from Skylar Timmons over here on Purple Row. And this is, I think, above all, this is something that has to happen. The philosophy and identity has to be consistent throughout the organization, because this really hasn't made a ton of sense here for the Rockies. It has always seemed that the Rockies were doing one thing in the minors and another in the majors. A player doing certain things in Double-A Hartford would no longer be doing those things with the Rockies. In the past, we saw former Rockies pitchers like Noah Davis rely heavily on his slider in the minors to quality success, only to get lit up in the majors as he relied too heavily on his fastball. Pitchers and even hitters would get pigeonholed into a cookie-cutter formula that simply did not work. And that's part of it too, right? It's got to be, we can't just force. It's got to be this. You got to be this type of player. You got to be like this. You got to do this. No, maximize the player's potential and then have the player adapt to the environment, making it so help the player utilize his strengths. And then you have to figure out a way to minimize and work around the weaknesses and the shortcomings in the game. It really does. And I know the altitudes are different. Hartford versus Denver is different, but it is pretty silly to be going through your developmental phases, to be going through the lower levels of baseball, and you're seeing your success. You're like, hey, I'm moving up through the ranks. This pitch is working for me. I'm getting guys out. I'm doing my job. I'm moving up. I'm in Double-A here. And now that and when you hit Double-A, your eyes do get set on the big leagues. If you reach Double-A, you got a shot at the big leagues, right? Or you're at least closer and closer. So for the Rockies to have guys be successful at those areas, and then for them to come to the major and say, okay, let's do something completely different, because it's Coors Field, because it's this, because we have to be like this, I don't think that's the move either. Part of this identity, the identity part of it should be, we make guys successful in our environment, not because they only hit home runs, because they only hit for power. No, we take guys in, we look at their strengths, we look at what works for them, we look at how we can capitalize on that in our environment, and we get the most out of them that way, and we try to negate the effects of going on the road. It shouldn't have to be, we need to have a full rotation of pitch to contact ground ball guys. It doesn't need to be like that. We need to have an ultra aggressive offense that swings a lot, that goes after everything, that just is going and doing and just straight bat to ball all the time. No, it should, the approach should be player specific, but it should be overall the goal of from the top down should be not only getting the most out of the players, but then having them hit that level of when you get here, we know you're a good, we know you can hit for, maybe you don't hit for home run power, but we know you can hit some extra bases. So let's get you, let's focus on hitting into the gaps. Now that you're here at Coors, let's work on making sure that we're taking advantage of this ballpark and its dimensions here with your strengths. Okay, Ezekiel Tovar, you can hit for doubles. Let's make sure that we're putting you in positions and preparing you to be able to take advantage of your strengths. It really does. That is, you can't call yourself a draft and develop team when you're taught and you're developing and you're going down the pipeline and you're feeling good at what you're learning here, and then it all gets turned around on you. It all gets flipped on you, and it goes into you have to start doing something completely different against much better talent. If you want them to do some things, if you want them to develop these things, that's the point of the minors, right? It's just something I think here where I think that just is silly. That it was silly that was even the approach, and it shows the dysfunction. It shows the disconnection. Every single every level of the org needs to be on the same page. It can't be we're going to do one thing here, this thing here, and it's just going to be to have to scrap everything and try to relearn because you're being pigeonholed into something, as mentioned in the piece. That's just not good development. That's just not going to be successful. Now you need to be challenged. You need to make sure that that's not to just forget. It's not to say, oh, we got to completely forego things. We can't work on these things. We can't try to develop some of this stuff. No. But you don't need to just force the players to be something that they're not. And I think the Rockies have probably, have done that, and that's a good example given there. Okay, I want to take a quick break, and then we're going to finish up the show here because we got some insight into how the Rockies might be fixing the pitching staff, and it comes with trades. So that means, and this is something that did raise my eyebrow, because if you're going to do more trading, that's something that we haven't seen a ton with the Rockies. Back here for segment number 3 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much again for making us your first listen of the day and for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network here on the planet. That's what we do. Okay, Denver Post has some insight into the Rockies' philosophy into upgrading pitching, and that says trades. Rockies' Paul DePodesta views trades as way to upgrade historically bad starting pitching from Patrick Saunders over in the Denver Post. So here's what he says. I've certainly got some ideas on what to do, DePodesta said during Major League Baseball's general managers meetings. I think it's still early, but we also need to see what type of opportunities present themselves over the course of the winter. I think we have to be pretty opportunistic in acquisitions. On top of that, we also need to think about how we approach it, even with the players we currently have. I think we have to be open-minded about all the different ways we can acquire players, especially pitchers. And here's from some more insight from Saunders here. Young starters such as Chase Dollander, Tanner Gordon, McCade Brown, Gabriel Hughes, and lefty Sean Sullivan offer glimmers of hope, but they have proven nothing yet. Lefty Kyle Freeland and right-hander Ryan Feltner, who missed almost all the 2025 season with back and shoulder issues, are the only 2 veterans on the staff. Hence, the team needs to look out for outside help as the young pitchers develop, or Colorado could see a repeat of 25. High-impact veteran free agents have most likely crossed high-altitude Colorado off their list already, meaning that DePodesta and his staff will have to look for some creative deals this winter. Colorado's most valuable trading chips come from its surplus of outfield prospects, even if DePodesta didn't say that directly. I want to stop short. I want to stop short of naming a particular position group, he said. I have one in mind for sure, but I do think that there's some depth there. And now I have to understand what the other 29 teams think and what players that they're attracted to from our organization. But again, I think we need to be open-minded about that. And here's the deal. When we're talking about buzzword things from these early interviews and these early sessions to get you excited, open-minded about trades is one of those things. This team is going, when it is going to be successful, when it builds a successful team, when it creates the successful teams, trades will be a part of it. You have to be willing. You have too many outfield prospects. You have too many guys in the outfield that you don't know what to do with. You have too many pieces here that you would be foolish to not be able to turn that into some guys that can help your rotation, whether that be veterans, whether that be some young guys that, as well, to compete with the other young guys. Trades are going to have to be part of the fabric of the equation for the Rockies. You're not with the way that with the boogeyman surrounding free agency, with the inability, with that stuff when it comes to bringing in the talent, hearing that they need to be opportunistic and open-minded to the opportunities. That is the philosophy to have, especially in times like this, where it's like, again, I want to latch on and I want to find my next favorite player. I want to be bought in. I want to be all super excited about everything going on there with the Rockies and everything. But I don't want to I don't want the fact that Brenton Doyle, that I like Brenton Doyle, eliminate them from getting some guys, some arms that are going to be able to help them down the line, or be able to start figuring out some ways to address some of their issues. As much as I like these players, we are in a tough spot as Rockies fans when it comes to we shouldn't get too connected here, because even though we like these players, if we like these players on losing and historically bad teams, you got to get better somehow. And that is going to it's going to require trading and moving on from some guys, most likely, especially as these guys aren't going to be part of the next competitive window, most likely, most of them. And it depends on how far away that window actually is. But you gotta be open-minded to the trades. You gotta be. That is something the Rockies have been too close-minded and too closed off to for far too long. If you have the right opportunity, you have the right chance to make a deal, you gotta go for it. Because as we've learned, you can't be too overcautious, overcare, and overhype your own prospects, or else you're just gonna dig a hole like the Rockies have found themselves in. Let's see here. Wanted to see what else is in this piece here, and there is some Chris Bryant update in here as well. The Chris Bryant conundrum. This is from again from Saunders here in the Denver Post. When DePodesta accepted his job at the Rockies, he was well aware of first baseman Chris Bryant's uncertain future. The former National League MVP is dealing with lumbar degenerative disc disease, and there's a real possibility that he will never play baseball again. Still, he's under contract for 3 more seasons, and the club still owes him $81 million. Asked about the conundrum, DePodesta says he needs to have a face-to-face conversation with Bryant. I'd like to get a chance to actually visit with Chris, and I haven't gotten to do that yet, DePodesta said. So until then, until I know more, even from our medical people and things like that, I won't know. Earlier this month, Bryant told the Post that dealing with back pain has become part of his everyday life. I wish I had better things to tell you, Bryant said. It's not in the best shape, and that's pretty disheartening for me. It's exhausting for me waking up and hoping to feel better. I can't tell you the last time I woke up feeling I'm in a good spot. Man, that sucks, dude. Like, hey, the baseball side, all that stuff, I don't think we can emphasize enough. That's a bummer, man. That sucks. I mean, there's no way around that. It sucks that he can't play. It sucks that the Rockies got the have the contract and stuff too. But it sucks that this guy that we can't sit here and say he hasn't tried. When you degenerative disc disease in your back, man, that's just not a good sign. But if you're gonna have quotes like that, I think. And I like the quote from DePodesta there. Talk with him face to face. Be professional with them, but I just hope that conversation is a really honest one. I hope Chris Bryant continues to be honest about where he's at, not only with the media but with just himself and the organization as well. Obviously, I mean, you hope that he can get that health back, because when you're waking up with back pain every day, doesn't matter if you're playing ball or not. That freaking stinks. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB and Locked On MLB Game Night. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.